Hello, and welcome to Back Through the Lens, where two film school friends talk about movies through the haze of nostalgia. The good, the bad, and the ones that aren't quite how we remember them. I'm your host, Rachel, and with me is my co host, Joe. Today's movie is I Know What You Did Last Summer.
In the mid to late 90s, there was a resurgence of teen slasher films. What was once known in the 80s for nameless actors and gory, outrageous deaths caused by an unstoppable foe was traded for big-name teen stars and plot-driven baddies that made you side-eye every character, never knowing who you really could trust. While a lot of us enjoy our summer days, these characters are often running for their lives at night. This week we try to take a stab at what made these films popular again.
So, I guess coming off of Jaws, we have another scary summer movie.
Centered around the 4th.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I completely forgot this movie that it took place over the 4th of July.
Yeah, so did I. I guess I didn't know what to expect. I was just hoping that the title, with summer in it, that it actually did take place in summer, because I also forgot this came out in October. And so I was like, oh, did we mess up with this pick? So luckily, it actually does take place in the summer and it fits our theme.
Although, could you imagine how weird it would have been if you had been correct and this had not actually taken place during summer? What would this title have meant?
I don't know.
All right. Well, how about I officially introduce this since
Please
we're
do.
already alluding to a release date we haven't mentioned. So today's movie is I Know What You Did Last Summer, directed by Jim Gillespie, released October 17th, 1997, rated R, based off the novel I Know What You Did Last Summer by Lois Duncan.
So, unlike some other picks we had that were based off novels or stories, novellas, whatever, I had no idea this was based off of a novel. So obviously I've not read this one either. But
Yeah.
I'm starting to kind of gather a list of episodes we've discussed movies that are based on books onto my Libby, and eventually we'll listen to them. Kind of excited about this one because I think it's more of a murder mystery type deal versus the slasher I think we got.
Right. So, in my research for this episode, I found out that actually Lois Duncan was not thrilled about this adaptation at all. She actually lost a child to a violent crime that has never been solved. She had a child who was murdered. Outside of that, though, it seems like her books are very much, like you said, mysteries, not violent stories, but murder mysteries, kind of more old school, maybe, where there's tension but not violence. And she felt like it was sort of cheapening the story to turn it into a slasher movie. She also just didn't appreciate violence against kids, which she considered the teenagers to still be like kids, which
Right.
I understand. And then, along with her own personal experience, I could see why she was not thrilled. But it's funny because we will get into how our director, Jim Gillespie, actually was fighting really hard to make this movie not gory. And that's sort of one of the hallmarks when you look back on the whole slasher horror movie surge of this time, that I Know What You Did Last Summer particularly stands out for not being as gory, not really being bloody, and they were concerned about how it would test because of that. I just think it's funny that the author here was upset about it being gory while the director was actually fighting to keep the gore to a minimum.
Right. I have to rewatch all of these movies. Well, I won't, but all of these movies from this era. And thinking about it just quickly, they weren't really that gory in general, like compared to the 80s slashers, like these crazy deaths and dismemberment. Now, there might have been stabbings and people bleeding, and like they definitely showed the violence, but it wasn't like over the top from what I remember.
Why don't you introduce this one for people who might not be familiar?
Oh, all right. What starts off as a promising 4th of July evening in a quiet oceanside town quickly turns into a nightmare when four friends accidentally hit a pedestrian on their late night drive back from the beach. This is where the pageantry and high school puppy love end and their troubles begin as they decide to cover up the accident and vow to never speak of it again. A year later, our felonious foursome are met with notes and dead bodies that indeed indicate that someone knows what they did last summer.
I feel like the most enduring legacy of this movie is their title
Yeah.
because like so many things have riffed on that title.
If I think about it too hard, as we get into the sequels later on, like it's no longer last summer. It's like know what you did like 5 years ago.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. I actually remember the sequel more than I remembered this one. I'm not sure why, really, but I have things to say. But we're not there yet. We
All
haven't
right.
even talked about this one yet. So, my first time seeing this movie, it was most likely a rental. I guarantee it was at a sleepover. It was rated R, so I doubt that I saw it in theaters. I don't know if this sounds silly, but the lack of gore had me convinced at first that it was PG-13. It just seems so tame compared to something like Scream. And again, I should not be comparing it. I should just be like watching it in, I should be taking this for what it is. But we talked about Jaws, and that was PG.
I see where you're going with
um,
this.
and then this was, I don't know, I don't feel like it was particularly gruesome or showed a lot in terms of the killings. I was just surprised it was R, I guess. Maybe that's silly of me.
Yeah, I probably first saw it via rental as well. I can't imagine seeing this in the theater. It's like that time where you're old enough to watch scary movies or rated R movies, but not old
Mhm.
enough to go like buy a ticket to let yourself into a theater.
Right.
You just have to wait for it to show up under the new release banner at your favorite video rental place and just beg one of your parents to let you rent it for the weekend.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know how I got away with renting Scream because I know I saw Scream before I saw this. Also, our local theater had a period of time where an adult could sign your ticket and they didn't have to actually come in and watch the movie with you as long as they were there when the ticket was purchased. But I'm still pretty sure I didn't see this one in theaters. So, having mentioned Scream already, like you said, we'll get into the pre production a little bit. Eric Feig was a producer on this movie. He had pitched the idea to Mandalay Entertainment to rewrite the novel, I Know What You Did Last Summer, as a 1980s slasher movie. He brought Kevin Williamson on to write it. Kevin Williamson famously wrote the screenplay for Scream,
Ta-da!
which is not really helping all those comparisons. Kevin Williamson's career kind of exploded with Scream, his screenplay for Scream. He went on to do some other, what we will call the teen star, teen horror movies, Teaching Mrs. Tingle, The Faculty. He also created Dawson's Creek, which I always forget about, the TV show.
I mean, it makes sense, but also it's jarring at the same time.
Yep.
And like in this conversation, if you didn't know Dawson's Creek was a TV show, it kind of sounds like it could be a teen slasher film.
I could see that. He also created The Vampire Diaries, another TV show, which maybe is a little more in line with what he's known for.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he didn't create it, but he had a hand in developing it for television. So when Williamson was approached to write the script for I Know What You Did Last Summer, he was inspired in changing it to more of a slasher movie. He was inspired by his own father, who was actually a commercial fisherman, and he changed the setting of the story to a small fishing village. So I'm just really curious what this novel was in the first place. It just seems like they changed so much.
Right. Huh.
I
Interesting.
don't know.
Also, love that he took inspiration for a killer from his father. It says a lot. That sounds like some therapy that needs to happen.
Yeah, and some of the interviews with him that I read said his father, had a slicker like the killer in this movie, which I mean, of course you do if this is your job. You have, the outfit that you need to go out and do your work, but it's just
Right.
on paper that sounds a little harsh. Like I took this inspiration for a killer from my own father. So I kind of found conflicting information about what happened to the movie and the script after this point, because there's a lot of information saying that Kevin Williamson couldn't get the script sold until after Scream was made and became a hit. And that kind of lends to why people sometimes think I Know What You Did Last Summer is a ripoff of Scream, especially if they don't realize it's the same writer, but he actually wrote this one first.
I mean, I never thought it was a ripoff. I just, the dominoes fell when Scream came out. Another one that's probably not done by him as well, one I remember, is Urban Legend, which is another like hook killer, I think, or some sort of, I
Mm-hmm.
forget the weapon there. But again, same thing, up and coming teen actors,
Yeah,
masked killer. I mean, they were coming out every year.
right.
Um,
Could you lump Final Destination into these too? Or is
I
it the
would
same
in a
time
different
frame?
way, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's of a time. I think maybe he had such a hard time getting it sold until Scream's fame because maybe of name recognition. Because keep in
Mm-hmm.
mind of who did Scream and why it was probably is so good and so successful, and kind of the outlier here of all these other ones to come.
Right. I gotcha. I mean, we know eventually the movie ends up at Columbia, so something happened. We don't know. There's no way to know. But once we got to a point where this was actually being made post Scream, Kevin Williamson wanted Jim Gillespie to direct. He's a Scottish filmmaker who really does not have a large filmography at all. So I'm really curious why Kevin Williamson recommended him in particular. This was actually his feature debut.
That's pretty cool.
His whole filmography, it's, I don't think even 10 movies. And there's nothing on there that stood out to me that I recognized. For a second, I thought he had directed one of the Venom movies, like Marvel. But then when I clicked on it, it turns out it's just another horror movie, this time in a swamp. And it's like a
Hmm.
weird animal human hybrid thing,
Nice.
venomous animals, maybe, not the
Okay.
Marvel
No,
one.
not okay. Got it.
So truly, this is such an outlier for him because first feature film and then never really did anything big after. Gillespie said in an interview that he rewatched the original Halloween and Jaws while he was doing his, pre-production for this movie. Both of them take place in small towns, and he said he really wanted that small town feel. Halloween in particular because it's a scary movie that's not gory, in his words. And Jaws, he wanted to try to copy the feel of the small town Fourth of July celebrations.
Check and check.
Yep. This is a quote from him. The joy of this film, which is I Know What You Did Last Summer, for me as a filmmaker was in taking the elements that we've seen before and saying to the audience, here's something you've seen before, knowing that they're saying, we've seen this before, and still getting them to jump. Gillespie also claimed that he felt Williamson's screenplay did not resemble a quote slasher horror movie and that he saw it simply as quote a really good story with a morality tale embedded within it.
I can see a little bit from column A and B. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard not to look at it as a slasher horror movie, and I think maybe if you're close to the project and that's what you didn't want it to be, I can
Mm-hmm.
see why you'd be on that soapbox. But it
Mm-hmm.
still kind of is. Sorry, bro. But I do think there definitely has that morality tale as well.
I think you could argue that. I also have some feelings about this that will make more sense as we go through the movie a little bit, so I will save my commentary.
Uh
So for casting, the producers said that the actors had to be beautiful but likable.
oh. Okay, sure.
They wanted the classic good looking teen actors, but they didn't want them to be so, I guess, I don't know. I feel like it's almost like in Clueless. They're rich and pretty and popular, but you still have to root for them. So I guess they were like, let's hope that people like these characters enough that they don't want them to die.
One of them I really wanted to die, but we'll wait for that one too.
Same. I have a feeling it's. I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely
um,
not likable.
yeah. So Gillespie, our director, he chose the four main roles. He chose the actors. He really was rooting for Freddie Prinze Jr. for Ray, but apparently no one else liked him. Gillespie felt Freddie Prinze Jr. had like an earnestness and honesty about him that would go well for that character, but the producers said he was too soft, not muscular enough. So he basically had to go bulk up and come back. But they said he did 4 or 5 screen tests and he had to pretty much transform his body in order to get this role.
I don't get why, because I don't think of Freddie Prinze Jr. as a bulky guy, period, let alone in this movie. I don't recall him having muscles. I don't know.
I mean, like, I feel like he was as in shape as any other teen actor of the time would have been, but it wasn't anything noticeable. But considering he's supposed to be sort of the poorer one of the group or the one who's more down on his luck, I don't think he was showboating like Barry or other male character.
Yeah. He should have bulked up because he's supposed to be an athlete.
I have notes about that.
Sorry. Jeez.
No, it's okay. Well, since you mentioned it, they did want this big quarterback type for the character of Barry. Ryan Philippe does not quite fit the body type they were looking for, but they were having trouble finding an actor for that role. They had offered one of the female roles to Reese Witherspoon, which she turned down. But she's the reason that Ryan Philippe was cast because they were dating at the time. The producers, wanted the big quarterback type, but also someone that they felt would draw teenage girls in to come see the movie. So they asked Reese Witherspoon, who's the hottest guy around, the hottest male actor around? And she was like, well, obviously my boyfriend. So that's why they brought him in and he got the part.
Fair enough. All right. Why not?
Yep. Why not?
Interesting.
But returning to Ray briefly, Jeremy Sisto was a frontrunner for Ray. That is Elton from Clueless.
Okay. I like this connection here.
Yep. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of rumors that Jennifer Love Hewitt was originally considered for Helen, but Gillespie said in an interview that she was always going to be Julie, that she had an emotional earnestness about her. He likes that word.
Yeah, it's twice now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sarah Michelle Gellar was the last one to be cast. She is Helen. Kevin Williamson was interested in her due to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show she starred on. Both he and Gillespie had to fight to get her cast because the studio thought her audition tape was too Valley Girl.
Oh.
Yeah. They didn't think she would be likable enough because they wanted her to be kind of self-centered enough to be so concerned with her looks all the time, but they didn't want her to be someone you weren't rooting for to survive.
Okay. I feel like, that's kind of the point of these movies, though. You want the people to survive, yes? Like, maybe like if you're a horror movie fan, or especially a slasher genre fan, like you want the bad guy to win. Like, that's what you're here for. I get that, I suppose. But you still want to, as a general audience, want them to survive because that's what gives you the tension, which makes it scary. So, like, yeah, I don't like we're gonna have all these characters and like we're gonna hope they're earnest enough that we like them.
Well, I could kind of see what they're saying, especially for Helen. They wanted someone who could be a mean girl sometimes, which we do see in the movie, but also likable enough that you're not going to be like, yeah, I don't care if he gets this one.
Sure.
Yeah.
I could see it.
Hilary Swank was considered for Helen, but she was 27 at the time, and Gillespie said he didn't want to do the Hollywood thing where they cast a 27-year-old as a 17-year-old, which I appreciate.
I respect that, yeah.
Melissa Joan Hart was also offered a role, didn't specify which one, but said she turned it down because it sounded like a ripoff of Scream.
Interesting.
Did anyone let her know that it was the same writer?
I don't think I can see her in this movie, but I can only see her from Clarissa Explains It All, so...
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think I could see her in this either, but I just think of her as Nickelodeon, so...
Right. Who would she have been? Julie, right? It'd have to be Julie. She just seems so... What's the word? Earnest?
Ernest, yeah. I don't know. But this is also where I wrote a note saying, why do all the actresses have three names? Melissa Joan Hart, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah. Interesting. That was of a time too, apparently. Yeah.
This brings us to our actual movie. This opening scene is so intense. They're just like flying over some water and a rocky coastline, and the music sounds really serious. And it was just a lot more intense than I remember.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a teen slasher film at the beginning. It felt like some sort of, I don't know, something demonic or maybe like an underwater monster movie because of all the emphasis on the coastline. And I get that's
Hmm.
part of the setting, which is good. But between like the weird, slow sweeping shots and just like the very, I think it's Type O Negative that does a cover of Summer Breeze, and it's like really deep and low and moody and emo, and it's
Hmm.
like, what is going on here? Uh, yeah, it threw me off. And like I said, I haven't seen this in forever, and this is basically like this whole movie rewatch was almost like a new movie for me.
Yeah, I did not remember much of this. I did want to point out that most of the movie was filmed in Southport, North Carolina. It was a 10-week shoot, but of those weeks were overnight shooting. So I think the town was kind of over it by the time they were done. But this opening scene they shot in Sonoma County, California, because they wanted a more interesting coastline. And so this opening with the rocky cliffs on the coast, and then also the this whole beginning part where they're hanging out at the beach, and when they run over the man, they're on a cliff. That's all California.
That's interesting though. They just choose the West Coast for the more luxurious kind of character based. By character, I mean for like the setting, like give the character setting scenes, and then the little sleepy New England town. Or I guess it's not New England, it's Carolina, but it had that feel to me.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I misremembered somehow. I was convinced this was supposed to be a New England fishing village. And then we have this opening scene of Helen at the beauty pageant, and the guy, like the MC doing the beauty pageant, has a southern accent. And I literally wrote in my notes, is this set in the South? I could have sworn it was supposed to be New England. And no, it's definitely set in North Carolina, because later Julie gets mail. She gets the first "I know what you did last summer" note mailed to her North Carolina home address.
Right.
Yeah, like you said, it's been so long since I've seen this. Apparently, I just made up a whole different movie in my head that was like rated PG-13 and set in New England.
I mean, in our defense, because I thought the same thing. Generically, coastal town, fishermen, maybe because of media, but yeah, I'm thinking maybe not Boston proper, but that area. Um,
Yeah, and there was an interview I read where our director said he wanted a New England fishing town feel, especially because he was going off of like the vibes from the town in Jaws. Maybe this is where it was more affordable to film,
yeah, probably.
most likely. Hmm. Speaking of our opening credits, though, I had completely forgotten that both Anne Heche and Johnny Galecki were in this until I saw the opening credits.
Same, 100% same. And then Bridget Wilson, I think she's married now, and there's a hyphen, but she was in, oh, which Adam Sandler movie? Billy Madison. I think that's the teacher. And she was
Oh,
also
yeah.
Sonya Blade in the original Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh, wow. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Going back to this pageant, though, that Helen is in, basically, this is where we meet all our characters. The other three are watching her from the balcony, and Barry, Ryan Phillippe's character, is obviously her boyfriend because he's cheering her on, yelling that that's his girlfriend. Um,
I gave her
but
away.
yeah, but when they do the, what do you call that part of the beauty pageant where it's like they answer questions and it's, what would you do to better the world, or what are you going to do with your life? She talks about moving to New York City to be an actress, and she says, through art, I shall serve my country.
And we salute you, Sarah Michelle Gellar.
It's just so cheesy.
Yeah, a little bit. So this beauty pageant persona for Helen kind of carries throughout the whole movie,
Hmm.
for better or for worse. And like the next scene, I think they're leaving the pageant and she had won. You can tell by
Hmm.
the crown she's wearing.
Hmm.
And she's talking a lot about her hair to J Love, aka Julie. It's just like, I don't know, this one quote, I don't remember the full conversation. There's a lot of back and forth, but she's just like, the do is vital. She was so serious. And it kind of reminded me of like something one of the characters in Clueless would say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're having some discussion about how men care about women's hair more than you would think. Something about that, that your hair always has to look good.
I guess there could be something said about that, considering like the next, not maybe not the next time we see Julie, but in the future when we see Julie a year later in college, she looks very ragged and her hair's very greasy, and like her roommate's just basically saying she looks like ass. It's just like,
Yeah, she looked awful. And I
yeah.
don't remember noticing it this much as a younger person watching this, but it made me think of when they would spoof She's All That and make the like the when the Scary Movie people did She's All That, and they
Hmm.
obviously made that character look a lot worse than the actual like Rachel Lee Cook's character and She's All That. And yeah, just like this mousy girl with the super greasy hair, and her roommates like you never have seen the sun.
Yeah.
But her hair really is horrible. Like she needs to wash it.
She had a lot of guilt.
And that guilt transformed into grease that is in her bangs.
No, depression. People who are depressed don't often take care of themselves.
Okay, well now I feel like an ass.
Well, we can cut all this.
No, that's fair. Although it's funny to me that they seem to go on this journey with Julie symbolized by her hair, but also it's as if Julie's the only one that is struggling with this at all.
She definitely is the one that's struggling the most, I would say. I would think Barry probably not at all, or at least he
Right.
doesn't want to show that he is.
Yeah. Well, okay. Jumping ahead. I was confused at first about whether Julie and Ray were actually dating. There's this scene where they're all at a restaurant together after the pageant, like you said, and a server there, Max, who is Johnny Galecki's character, is obviously hitting on Julie, or at the very least trying to get her to go on a date with him before they
Mm.
all leave for college. I believe we know that Julie's going to college in Boston.
I don't
Because I
remember.
remember her
I
and
know
Ray
she's going
talking.
away.
Yeah, she's going away, sure. She's trying to very politely turn him down, not really great at it. And then Barry just sort of busts in and starts threatening Max, telling him to stay away from Julie. But then when Ray swoops in to stop the fight, Barry says something like, I'm just taking care of your girl like I promised. Why did you have to promise that? Why did she need taking care of? Where is all this going?
Yeah, that was very weird. I think it's just really to show how quick to aggression Barry is. He tends to snap at everybody. Granted, in this scene, he's like doing a couple shots until he's drunk, but I think it's just, it happens a lot in the movie. He is
Hmm.
the bad boy or the mean boy or whatever you want to call it. And I think Murray apologizes to Max too
Hmm.
because he's so earnest.
Yep. Also because he is not rich.
Yeah, which also, so okay, they're in this fishing town and Max is clearly staying there and he's like gonna be a
Hmm.
fisherman. We find out later that Ray's trying to get out of that life because his father was a fisherman. Just like our author's father or our
Hmm.
screenwriter's father.
There we go.
But the rest of them are rich and they don't really live in the town. I feel like they don't live near where all the fishing is happening. Or why are they so rich and why are they comparing themselves to Ray or vice versa? I was mostly Barry, obviously, always saying you want to be one of us, and like I was thought all this was weird.
Yeah, it's really strange because Max, like you said, makes some comments to Ray about you're just trying to be one of them, but you'll never really be accepted. And later, when they suspect Ray of sending the threatening notes, Barry's convinces Ray because Ray was never really one of them or he was always jealous of them. And I completely understand Barry's characterization as this rich asshole because we see his house later. He lives in a mansion. I assume Helen's family is doing well because they own a store in town that seems to be fairly popular. Julie, I'm less convinced that she's part of this rich crowd because her house just seems pretty standard. I don't think she's poor necessarily, but she doesn't seem so well off.
I don't think Helen's family is well off either because she wants to go and be an actress. When she comes back, it almost feels like she's working the family business, and it's not beneath her. It's not quite how I want to paint that, but that it's not the fame and glory she wanted. And I
Right.
think they're doing okay, but they're not living
Mm-hmm.
in a mansion like Barry,
Yeah.
and they're also a shop in a small town. So like they're probably getting by okay enough. The only reason I'm bringing this all up is because Barry keeps emphasizing that Ray is the outsider, but I think Barry's the outsider. So when they go to his house too, a year later, I feel like they have to drive a bit away. Like he's living outside of town because he lives in that mansion.
I could see what you're saying. I just don't think the rich kid is ever going to like feel like he's the outsider.
No, of course not.
And the more we're talking about this, I really think we needed a reason to buy into the suspicion of Ray later on.
Hmm.
And this is already setting Ray up to be in other.
Right.
And also, he's not really in the rest of the movie when they're all being threatened by the fishermen. So that helps too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One could look at Barry as a suspect too because he's so quick to accuse others. He is the very aggressive one. He's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be this like big quarterback jock, and there's a lot of quite literal heavy lifting with these dead bodies.
Mm-hmm. I could see this. I also feel that the entire accident really is Barry's fault.
100%.
Okay, good.
He's
Glad
just
we agree.
yeah, and he's just killing everyone to cover up even more.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this restaurant scene, the last thing I want to say is the band playing during this is Southern Culture on the Skids,
Mm-hmm.
which my husband always sings one of their songs at me.
At you.
Yeah. But it was just hilarious to me though that this was the band in the movie because I'm like that weirdo random band that my husband listens to that I had never heard of until I met him. But yeah, they're from North Carolina, so tracks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We go to this scene where the four of them, like our core group, they decide to go hang out at a beach. By the way, it's called Dawson's Beach, which, Dawson's Creek. They're all sitting around telling ghost stories, basically. And they tell different iterations of this story that I guess is called The Hook, based on things I've seen written up about it.
Yes.
I don't know if I'd heard of like this one in particular, but immediately this scene gave me camping vibes, like Girl Scout camp sleepovers, even where you sit around telling ghost stories. And it makes me feel old saying this, but like, do kids do that anymore?
I don't know. I have to ask some kids.
I know.
Um, hey kids, do you tell ghost stories? Do you want some chocolate? Um, no, don't
Well,
do
they
that.
probably just watch, I don't know, angry people on YouTube that they shouldn't be watching.
It definitely does give you that vibe, though. I used to go camping with my friends a lot, and we would tell ghost stories, mostly about like the presumed ghosts that are at the campsite.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember the story of the hook. I feel Ray is telling the right version of the story, but I'm biased because I had read that story in the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to
Yeah.
grab the one of the final copies before they stopped printing the old school art. I think they re-released it recently. Well, I
Okay.
remember that from the first book, and that's why I think Ray is telling the right story or the right version of it.
Okay. I will tell you, I did read those. I did. And I don't think I slept for a week afterward.
I mean, that's fair. The drawings are pretty scary, and that's why I
The
love them.
drawings are creepy.
They're great.
Yeah. But we also get some shades of the horror movie rules, like
Hmm.
in Scream, because Julie says something about the dangers of premarital sex, I guess right before she and Ray go hook up. So now at least we know they're together.
That's how you know.
I mean, that did answer my question, I guess. So I have a quote from Kevin Williamson, our screenwriter, who said that this scene was a way of indicating what was to come. Quote, basically, what I was doing was I was setting the framework to say, all right, audience, that's the legend. Now here's a new one.
That's fair. I mean, definitely has some foreshadowing to it,
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
Yeah. I got this vibe through all these interviews I read with both Kevin Williamson and Jim Gillespie that they really felt like they were revitalizing the slasher genre. Like they were just so proud of these little bits of foreshadowing and callbacks to, previous movies in this subgenre. And I don't know, no offense to them, but I feel like we all kind of understood where this was going.
Right, yeah. You did not reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah, that's sort of how it comes off sometimes, like as if they invented foreshadowing. And because there was that quote from Gillespie that we said earlier where he said, you know, here's something you've seen before. We've all seen it before, but we still have to get them to jump. And it's like, yes, that's kind of what every horror movie is, right?
Right.
Like, because nothing's, completely original. Okay. So, anyway, these two guys are patting themselves on the back. It's fine.
Well, I will give some defense to the screenwriter because he also wrote Scream, and that was pretty darn good.
Yep. Yep. Now that I said this, it reminds me of one of the older reviews I read when the movie first came out that they imagined the screenwriter was just sitting in his house watching old slasher movies like Halloween and Friday the 13th and was like, yes, that is a story structure I can do. Look, I did it.
uh, yeah.
So, this is where we get to the actual accident, the whole source of everyone suffering a year later. They're driving down this windy road on a cliff. Ray is driving because everyone's agreed that Barry is too drunk to drive, except for Barry.
Of course, that's how that goes.
Right. It's always how it goes. And Barry ends up standing up with the upper half of his body out the sunroof. He's still drinking. And I guess he drops the liquor bottle into Ray's lap, and that distracts Ray enough to not see the man in front of the car.
Yes.
And also, the music is blaring, which just kind of adds to the general not feeling like you can pay attention, I guess. But
Hmm.
I guess my argument is that without Barry even being involved, I feel like it would have still been really hard to see this man because of the way the curve is. It's dark. This man is wearing all black. He's, usually I feel when people are walking or jogging in the dark, they're wearing reflectors or something. Like this man, like all I'm saying is if it wasn't for the alcohol, I think they would have had a perfectly good case of this was a pure accident.
Hmm. Yeah, it's dark, and he's wearing. Is he wearing a slicker? I don't know.
He's wearing that slicker and fisherman hat get up
Yeah.
that, Kevin Williams' dad wore.
When you go for a casual 4th of July evening stroll, you want to be dressed in your fisherman best. I get your point, though. That's. I'm agreeing here. Yes, just none of
Yeah.
that. The alcohol and all that stuff doesn't help at all. Clearly, and they all
Right.
get very paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know why, because to Julie's argument, Ray was driving, and they're like, "Well, no one's going to believe that." Why? Why wouldn't anybody believe that? Also, like, they're teenagers, so they shouldn't be drinking anyway. So first of all you have to do is take a sobriety test, like actual blow or blood test, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
know
Yeah.
that. But if they don't believe that Ray was driving anyways, I guess it's mute. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Right. their teenage logic killed me when they were like, no one will believe that Ray wasn't drinking because the whole car smells like booze. And it's like, yeah, but that's when you tell them that you spilled it and go ahead and test me.
Right. Yeah.
I Yeah, and but I do appreciate how a lot of them are concerned that, well, especially Ray is concerned that he doesn't have the money for a good lawyer. They all have more resources than he does, so we keep hearing. Again, I really only feel like Barry has the resources to truly get out of this.
Same.
Maybe you could probably make an argument somewhere that maybe Helen's family knows enough people in town that, they could, that would be of use to them. But I don't know. I From everything I read about the movie, this is what our screenwriter and our director really wanted us to take away. Not so much this slasher movie, but this whole, what would you do if you were in this kind of situation where this thing happens that has the possibility to completely change the trajectory of your life? Like, would you come clean or would you hide it? And I appreciate that because it's, not like people don't go to jail for accidents. I feel like, though, most of this is Barry kind of bullying them all into it.
100%. It's 3-on-1, them to Barry about this is an
Mm-hmm.
accident, clearly an accident. We should report it.
Mm-hmm.
And one by one, with Julie being the last because she's physically being threatened and like choked,
Yes.
they decide to make the vow.
Yes. We should point out that Julie is the one who absolutely does not want to do this. That's the
Oh,
hardest to
100%.
convince.
Yeah.
That's why her hair looks so bad later.
Yes.
But
Guilt. We call that guilt hair.
guilt hair, guilt, greasy bangs.
It's probably a continuity thing or an overthinking thing. But they hit the guy, he like hard, and he goes over the hood, over the car entirely, and like gets blood all over Barry.
Yeah, because Barry's sticking out of the sunroof.
Right. But then he's like 30 yards ahead of the car. And I was like, that's really weird. Am I overthinking this too much? How did he get in front of them when he clearly flipped over the car past Barry?
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking maybe they spun around or something. But no, that's
They,
not right. Because, I mean, I think they spin, but I think they end up facing forward again because then
mhm.
Max comes from the same direction they just came
Yeah.
because they left that area. So I don't know.
No, I agree. The physics of it, or however you want to say it, do not make sense to me either. But yeah, I did want to point out that Max does drive by and they try to pass it off as Barry is hanging over the guardrail getting sick. And they have already dragged the fisherman's body, Kevin Williamson's father's body, over the guardrail. So, at least from the viewpoint of Max, from what we see when the camera's at his viewpoint, he does not see a body. I just want to point out that Max was there because something happens to Max later, and I thought it was because maybe he was there, but it's not. They end up at a pier. They go to push his body off a pier, and he ends up waking up, his eyes open.
Yeah,
And
waking up is like a loose term. This
yeah,
guy gets shocked back to life, it feels like.
yeah, that part did get me. I jumped. Not gonna lie.
It's probably the best jump scare in the movie.
I mean, I would say so. But then they end up basically fighting him into the water. So like now they're really screwed because this you can't even say this was an accident. Like I was like, what are you gonna sorry, sir, we are gonna hide your body, but now you're awake, so we'll let you be. Like
If we were being distracted by our drunk friend, accidentally hit you, thought you were dead, we're gonna throw you a nice Viking funeral without the fire. You woke up. Sorry, we accidentally punched you into the water. Oh, can I have my girlfriend's crown back, please?
yeah. Yeah, so he does after all this, after they literally now murder this man and put him into the water. Helen realizes her beauty pageant crown is gone, that the guy had grabbed it when he fell in. So she makes Barry dive in and get it back.
I think he
And
just
he
dives
opens
in
his
because he is super
eyes.
paranoid about being caught.
Oh, that's true. Because that would be evident. Okay. I'm sorry. You're right. She is like, whining, crying, and carrying on. He ends up going in for it. But as he's trying to pry this crown out of the maybe dead man's hands, he opens his eyes yet again. So that's that.
like when he opens his eyes underwater, that part reminded me
Mhm.
of like every Friday the 13th movie from like 2 on, where you see Jason, like, or the beginning of the movie though, where like you think he's dead from the previous movie. He's always
Mm.
in Camp Crystal Lake.
Oh.
And then like you see him open his like one good eye. But that's totally reminded me of that. So maybe he was just sitting down watching a bunch of 80s movies when he was making the screenplay.
So now instead of a car accident, they've literally murdered someone, which I feel like a little bit does away with that whole philosophical question that our filmmakers wanted us to focus on, in my opinion.
Mm, I mean, yes and no. The first time was an accident, and I feel like there's a scale of like 1 to 10, right? Like I think
Hmm.
the accident part, I think is more on like the 1 to 5 scale. Like they weren't responsible fully. I mean, he wasn't paying attention, but like they didn't. It would be manslaughter at best. But Barry doesn't want to get in trouble, and so like the question is, do you tell what happened? I mean, they could have just drove away too. The guy wouldn't know if he woke up who hit him, right?
Yeah.
Now I think it shifts to the greater of the end of the scale because one of the four of them, murder is a strong word. He punches him in the face, probably knocked him out, dumps him in the water. We're assuming he's going to drown. I don't think he like killed him, but he definitely didn't give him a chance to live. So
Hmm.
now the question is, what do the other three do?
Yeah.
They still have this moral implication of, do I tell or not? Before they were all kind of connected via the car. Now it's like, who's gonna rat on Barry, and are they gonna deal with him snapping on him and breaking our necks?
Hmm.
Because at this point, they all could just be together and say, "Yeah, Barry killed this man. He was drunk. He was driving his car." Now you can just change the story if all three of them, like,
Yeah. If you
you
wanted to,
know,
yeah. Hmm.
yeah, and then pushed him in the water. Like,
Yeah, so actually, I'm totally with you on this theory that it could have been completely reasonable to suspect Barry in the first place of being, of sending the notes.
mm-hmm,
Okay.
fucking Barry.
Um, yeah, fucking Barry. Yeah, I literally in my notes I wrote Barry's a psychopath.
I did too. It's funny.
So we've already talked about, we cut to 1 year later, Julie's away at college looking horrible. Her roommate's almost pushing her into going home for the summer. It sounds like Julie's really not interested for obvious reasons. And she's physically uncomfortable being back in her home with her mom. We find out at this point that her dad died. And I don't know if that was, for some reason, I got the impression that it was over the course of that year that her dad died. I think I was just getting mixed up. But her mom made a comment that if her dad had seen how poorly she's doing in college, he'd be rolling over in his grave, which is like wonderful thing to say to your kid
Right.
who's like struggling with their freshman year in college.
I somehow missed all of this, but if he had died during the course of the school year, she could at least use that as an excuse to not come home and look like ass because she could be
Hmm.
grieving.
Yeah.
So that kind of covers up her guilt a little bit.
Yeah, because even at first I was thinking, oh, well, that's why she's looks so horrible and she's so down because this happened and her dad died. But
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know. But this is where we get our first threatening note because Julie gets a note in the mail
Yes.
addressed to her house.
So now that we're at the first letter, question
Hmm.
that pops in my mind: why does this killer presumably wait till Julie James comes home and starts sending everyone letters? It seems either perfectly timed or coincidental.
I don't know. He probably was stalking them to some degree and knew she was home. I don't know. Or guessed that she'd be home
I
for the
guess.
summer. I don't know,
Unless
man.
he sent it like, during the fall and she was away and he's like, duh, he hasn't got my letter yet.
I mean, I will give that to you though, that sending it through the mail like that, there must have been some sort of pre-planning.
Mm-hmm. Didn't RSVP to my murder party.
Okay. Yeah, well, I was gonna argue too that if you started with these letters, you would ideally get the four of them in the same place to be like, what the hell's going on? Because also, like, we didn't really have cell phones yet, and
Hmm.
maybe he thought that would be easier, but then there are other things that happen that make me think. I think he just wanted to terrorize them. I think he liked the psychological torture of it.
I agree. This is where we find out that Helen's family has a store, unless I missed that also at the beginning. But she goes to the store, and this is where she talks to Bridget Wilson, who I wasn't sure if this is supposed to be her mom or older sister. Older
Yeah.
sister. She's like, I need Helen's
Hmm.
New York phone. And so clearly, like, this is the first indication that once they left, the four of them aren't friends anymore.
Right.
Because she should have her number, right? They're besties.
She should have her number. And also, it turns out when they actually do speak that Helen only lasted a couple months in New York. So, like, they really had no idea what happened to each other.
Right. I think that further like drives that wedge and makes you go, oh, they're not in communication with each other. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
But
But,
it turns out, like you said, she's just hanging out at the store, doing
mhm.
just normal, not actress stuff.
But then they go see Barry, and Barry doesn't really seem like he's doing anything either.
Yeah, I don't think he had a successful freshman year of football. And it's weird, too, because she shows up the note. She's like, I got this letter. So she's the only one to receive any letters yet.
Hmm.
And the first thing Helen says is, did you show Barry? Fuck no, I didn't show Barry. Last time I saw Barry, he was choking me out. Like,
Right?
I don't want to talk to this psychopath.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too because as they're walking up to his house, Julie asks Helen if they broke up, again, reiterating how little they've been in contact. But then Barry appears off of a balcony and says something like, what the hell are you two doing here? Like,
Right.
so it's, I don't know, maybe Barry was also like, I don't want to remember this ever happened. That includes talking to any of you. Goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I guess I would think that if I was Barry, who arguably had the most to lose if the whole story was told, he would be like, almost like trying to stay in their good graces a little more. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like
Be a little
buying them
nicer.
off.
Yeah. Be a little
Yeah.
nicer to the people that watched you murder somebody.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
A little blackmail
Um,
goes a long way. So does like hush money.
yeah. Okay, so this is what leads them to confronting Max. They've decided that this has to be the three of them. Ray isn't involved yet, I don't think. But they go threaten Max, or Barry does anyway, telling him to stop sending the letters. I assume they come to this conclusion that he has to be the writer because he's the only other person that was like around that night.
Which makes sense.
Because he did drive through the scene. Yes, makes sense. Um, but then later, poor Max is our first kill
Yep. Sure is.
for no reason.
To start building tension, I suppose. They can't like kill off one of our four main characters right away.
So I agree with that. Oh, you had made a note that he should have lived longer so we could have suspected him for longer, which I also agree with.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I should have killed somebody
Hmm.
else.
Hmm.
Completely like oblivious. Like at least Max was in the scene. So if the guy who clearly did not die, I don't know how
Yeah.
he would have recognized Max anyways, but at least he was there to be both a victim and a suspect. If it
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
me, if I'm writing a slasher, I would have killed just a no name anybody and put another note on the body. So you're
Hmm.
furthering the suspicion of Ray and or Max because you just threatened Max and now there's another dead body. Now Max is out of the picture.
Hmm.
But maybe Max being the first victim furthers my, as of like an hour ago, new theory that Barry could have been the murderer because Barry threatens
Yeah.
him and says he won't be bothering you again, and then he's dead.
Right.
This
Yes.
movie would be better if Barry was also a suspect. Max, Ray, and Barry, because there's a lot of things he does that seems very suspicious and very
Mm-hmm.
violent.
Yes. Our director, Gillespie, said that poor Max had to die because when they did test screenings, his death was not in the original cut. They decided a death sequence needed to occur earlier in the film to establish a sense of legitimate danger for the main characters. So they actually went back and did reshoots, like 2 days of reshoots after they finished the movie and had a finished cut and did the scene where Max was murdered.
I mean, I agree. You definitely need something there. Yeah, you got to make the threat known. Like, it's been a year.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little love note in the mail, and you have to have something else happen. Otherwise, the threat seems not real to me.
Mm-hmm. And I do agree with that. It just seemed so weird to kill Max. And then, like you said, you think that would mean something more because they had just threatened him, accused him, and then it's like, well, now he's dead, but nothing ever really comes of that.
Right. No one even talks about it. Like,
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah,
weird.
no one talks about him again until they find his body,
Right.
which
They
is
just
a
so,
good little while later.
yeah. So he's just gone. He's just gone.
I don't think they even know he's gone.
Right. But he
But
works somewhere. He lives with somebody. His parents maybe still. What, he just put up a gone fishing sign and just
doesn't he
disappeared?
work at the fishing
Yeah,
place?
that was my joke, I guess.
Yeah, I know. See, no, but he could have.
You just turned my joke around on me. I see what you did there. All right.
I was agreeing with you.
Oh, thought you were making fun of me,
I would never.
ma'am.
Okay, moving on. Barry has some weird encounter with the killer next, where he's like at the gym and he finds out that his jacket's been stolen from his locker.
Yeah, I think there was a note first, like sticking out of the
Okay.
locker, and
Okay.
like it says, like I know, or just something very simple like that. He like
Mm-hmm.
runs around this very empty but very dark locker room in his towel all
Mm-hmm.
by himself.
Yeah, it's like
And
after hours and he's the only one there.
yeah, and he comes back and his locker's open, his jacket's missing, and
Right.
again, see, oh my god, I'm not trying to be funny. This all this does is to me, unless I completely missed it on this rewatch, where they should have made Barry more of a suspect because his jacket's missing. It's such another thing they can add with the next victim's got his jacket. And the
Mm-hmm.
whole thing, the whole problem is, like, unlike Scream or some of these other movies, there are no cops involved in this movie. So like no one's interviewing these teenagers, victim or suspects.
Mm-hmm.
And like all these things they do, I feel like they lost something here where they could have done a little bit more to add tension. Because we suspect Max dead right away,
Mm-hmm.
so there goes that. And
Mm-hmm.
then I guess the next person we're supposed to think it is Ray, and that's not believable.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, the one thing they did plan is a quote from our director again. This scene in particular. Ryan had to get his six pack out. That was a prerequisite. Everybody was like, you've got to get Ryan's top off. And he was fine with that because Ryan looks like that all the time.
Great.
Yeah. I just, these little reminders that this is a business first and foremost. You got to get
Yeah.
people in the seats. And there was obviously a reason why they cast Ryan Phillippe specifically. I'm pretty sure he was well known. He had some teen movies under his belt at this
Oh
point,
yeah.
right?
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
So, sign of the times is all.
Mm-hmm. I want to point out, going a little bit back to Barry's mansion when they're talking about the note. And they were like, how does anybody know we did it? And Helen's like, we were so careful. What? Like, you're speeding, swerving,
Mhm.
screaming outside of a car, yelling at each other on a pier, shouting. Like, what care? There's probably blood in this car. Like, the guy was bleeding. Like, there's
Mhm.
evidence everywhere.
Mhm.
How are you not in jail yet is the real question. Not you were so careful.
So, okay, in addition to them being apparently so careful, Julie has been doing her own research on who this guy actually was. And based on newspaper clippings that came out around the same time, she thinks that this guy is someone named David Egan who they hit.
Yes.
She manages to figure out where his sister lives. And to quote them, she lives in the sticks.
Yes. This is another character that doesn't live anywhere in the fishing town, oddly enough. I like that Julie plays sleuth. And I think
Mm-hmm.
in other circumstances, it wouldn't make sense or be too convenient in the script. But I think with her character, it makes sense because of all the guilt.
Yes.
I don't know if she's looking for closure or whatever, but it makes sense to me that she was researching this guy. 'Cause it's not, they don't even like do a sequence or a montage or anything where she's like, "Oh, we gotta look this up." She's like, "Oh, I know who we hit. We should look into his rest of his
Mm-hmm.
family because maybe he's still alive, or obviously someone knows we did it."
They arrive at this rundown, it's like a really big farmhouse, but it's run down. And it's just David Egan's sister taking care of it all by herself now, played by Anne Heche, who I feel like just sort of became a tabloid staple more than anything else. But this role made me feel like she had a lot of untapped potential.
Yeah, I thought she was pretty good. Very creepy.
Yeah, very creepy. But you had some points about this house you wanted to make?
Oh, so the more I think about like them trying to pat themselves on the back for redoing slasher films, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, the body in the water with his eyes open, totally Friday the 13th. This whole house, this sticks environment they had to leave the little fishing town for, totally Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
Later, when we finally see the inside of Helen's family's house, the way it's laid out and the way it's shot from over the banister down the steps to Helen when she walks in the front door, it's like the same shot from Psycho towards the end.
So wasn't Anne Heche, didn't she play the Janet Leigh character in the remake of Psycho?
Yes.
Okay, the shot by shot remake of Psycho.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yep, that was the thing. We have a scene where Helen wakes up and discovers all her hair is cut off.
Hmm.
Again, with the importance of hair, though, we had just seen the night before she was like combing her hair very diligently because she has to ride in the parade and like hand off the pageant title to the next winner. You know, as the past winner, she has to be a part of all this. And her sister even makes a comment like, "You're so obsessed with your hair." So then I guess it's even more horrifying the next morning when she wakes up to find her hair cut short or just really shorter. He gives her a kind of a nice lob, um, which is like a long bob for those who don't know.
I
But
didn't know.
yeah, now you do. But all I could think of when Helen is laying there, kind of pulling the loose pieces of her hair out and screaming, was that scene in The Craft where they make the blonde girl lose her hair and
Hmm.
she's like pulling it all out when they're sitting in the locker room.
Which is
You know what I'm
another
talking
great
about?
movie from this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there's what, a message and lipstick on her mirror?
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
we see the fisherman like enter the house before her and go upstairs and
Oh,
go.
that's right.
We don't see him go in the closet, but like
We see
we
him
we see
walk up
like
there.
the closet door cracked open and there's a close up of it and like almost a slight zoom. We already know he's in the house. Like she
Hmm.
basically followed him upstairs.
Hmm.
I only want to say all that because I think as the viewer, what's creepiest is not she woke up with her hair cut off and the no, which is very creepy. The fact that he was just hiding out in this house in her closet until she fell asleep and snuck out while the sister and dad are also there. That's really creepy. She's just like in the
Hmm.
closet waiting.
Hmm. Oh, definitely. But speaking of creepy, this brings us to Julie driving somewhere,
Mm,
maybe to go to Helen's house. She keeps hearing a rattling in the trunk of her car, eventually pulls over, decides she's going to open her trunk, and she finds Max's dead body with crabs all over it.
right.
I feel like before this rewatch, I had forgotten about Max's whole character completely because there's a very famous scene coming up that we're going to talk about, but like I forgot that her finding Max was the catalyst for that.
Yes, same.
So I will admit that when she did open the trunk, because I'd completely forgotten his character existed, I was a little creeped out. Not so much that it was a jump scare, but I was like, oh, wow, that's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, Jennifer Love Hewitt was actually friends with Johnny Galecki in real life. They had known each other as like younger actors, like kid actors, and she had to like take the rest of the day off when she found the mold of his dead body.
Jesus.
I know, right? So this brings us to this famous scene where Julia's run off to get Barry and Helen, bring them back to her car to show them. But when she opens the trunk, everything's clear. No sign of Krabs or Max. There is a truck who almost runs into her at this point, and apparently other people have noticed that it's the fisherman driving the truck, just like not in his fisherman like slicker and hat,
Interesting.
which I did not catch, but this would explain how it gets like cleaned up so fast. Like he was in the area, he was probably following her. And obviously because they don't know what the fisherman looks like at this point,
Well, right, yes.
it doesn't matter that he's just driving around himself. But this leads to Julie breaking down, for lack of a better word, and twirling in the street, yelling, "What are you waiting for?" And the nice crane shot from above shows her really just twirling in the street, yelling while Barry and Helen watch her.
Yeah, I definitely remember this scene, but I think I remember incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, why the spin move? I thought that was really odd.
I
But
have an answer for that.
oh, okay.
Would you like to hear it, or would you like to tell your
No,
story now?
yes. Let me know. Go ahead.
Okay. A child directed this scene. There
What?
was, right? All right. This kid won a contest to come on and create a moment for the movie. And this is true because both Jennifer Love Hewitt and the director have stated in separate interviews that it's ironic that this scene that a kid came and created became the most iconic scene from the movie. Jennifer Love Hewitt said, the kid said, I want her to stand in the street and turn around and just scream. Jennifer Love Hewitt said that in that moment she was thinking, are you kidding me right now? This is what I'm going to do? But then she said it became the biggest part of the movie and ultimately is a great idea. But no one knows what happened to this kid. They've never shared his name in any of their interviews. So I almost feel like he really, like got shafted because, like, this is the only part I remembered from the entire movie simply because it's a meme.
Oh my God! What? So, not only hired a no name to do his first and probably only feature film
Right,
that had any
right.
success, they had a contest for a child to direct a
Hmm.
scene in a movie where teenage kids get murdered. Okay.
That's a good point.
And
It's not like this is a movie he could have gone to see at the premiere or whatever.
right. And it maybe became, I wouldn't say the biggest part of the movie. I think maybe the most recognizable, but not exactly maybe for the way in this quote Jennifer Love is suggesting.
Right.
I mean, there is a good crane shot before it goes up too high. I think it's infamously known for also showing off some of Jennifer Love Hewitt's other talents. And
Jeez.
I think maybe this boy, whether it was like maybe 12 years old, I also remember the scene being in the rain, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of, because I know one of the scary movies spoofed it. So maybe they did the
Mm-hmm.
scene in the rain to kind of amplify and make fun of this scene more again
Mm-hmm.
with the ampleness of the actresses. Yeah,
But
what? I can't directed this scene. Just spins. No wonder why they're spinning around. Like it just. Oh my god! What?
yeah, I also remembered it being in the rain, so I was kind of like, why is this scene different now? I was, like I said, I did not remember most of this movie. I have more memories from the sequel, so it's possible I'm misremembering something,
Hmm.
that happened in the sequel and combining it.
Fair.
But somehow it makes sense, I guess, that this whole thing was conceived by a child. Because, I mean, yes, you're right. Part of the reason it kind of lives on in infamy is because she's wearing a very low cut top, like pretty much all of her tops in this movie. But also, people think it's stupid. People are like, that's such a stupid line. That's such a stupid scene. Like, it's silly. It's nonsensical. And
I don't hate the line, like because there. at this point, the killer is toying with him. Like he could have killed Barry earlier. He like literally drove his car, almost ran him over, and he went smashing through his wooden billboard sign. He stood above him, right?
Yeah.
Could have killed him. But this is again to build tension and maybe deception between the four of them, so they fight amongst themselves.
I do agree with you, though. It's not so much a bad line. It's just so over the top, I think, compared to, I don't know, what we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's the spinning in circles that gets me. I think.
Mm-hmm. Man, if only that kid knew what he was creating. I did just want to point out that, this was a scene directed by a kid, and we previously discussed that Tiny Toons had a whole episode that was written by a group of 13-year-olds, I believe.
Yeah, fair. Big difference. Before we move on,
Okay.
Tiny Toons was three, I think 13-year-old girls. They were
Mm-hmm.
fans of the show,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a cartoon for kids.
Yes.
This is a rated R teen slasher movie by a kid,
Mm-hmm.
or at least one seen by a kid who's maybe at this point hadn't even seen any slasher films yet. Just won some sort of weird contest.
Right. Yeah, at the very least, you would think the contest would be for something, like I said, that he could go to the premiere for.
Right.
Like, whatever. But that's how we get this iconic, memeified scene.
I don't know if that enhances it or makes it worse for me. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll let you know. We see Ray after this, and this is the scene where Barry is, confronting him about sending the notes, that Ray always felt like he was the outsider or was, attempting to be one of them. And all I could think of was that he's really not in this movie much.
No, which is a good reason to have him be a suspect.
That's true. I mean, looking back, yes, I can see why they set this up to make him look like a suspect, because there are other things too that come into play. But at the same time, like we discussed, we could have still had Max as a potential suspect. We could have brought Barry into the mix,
Eh?
because he also, at this point, has had an encounter where the fisherman chased him but didn't kill him. Like, he ends up in the hospital, but he could have planned it.
Right.
You had some other points about Freddie Prinze Jr. here?
He's not great in this film. I don't really remember watching a lot of stuff he was in. He's probably in things I wasn't really watching at the time, but he just seems flat and forced. I don't know if he's like into the role or the film.
Mm-hmm.
I guess to counter that, Barry is just always over the top. And then when they do a scene together, it's like, what the heck? One guy is trying too hard, one guy is not trying enough, in my opinion.
I could see that. I guess it's possible it's just the dichotomy of the characters that compared to Barry, he seems so flat, but he doesn't seem to say a lot or explain himself. And again, on purpose, maybe because we're supposed to suspect him a little.
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah. And Jim Gillespie really wanted him in this movie. So there was
Yeah.
something that he saw that we are not seeing.
I feel that J Love and SMG did a good job, though. I think they played their roles pretty well.
Mm-hmm. I guess we go to the parade next, because I have a note that Helen's hair turned out okay for the parade. Her
Looks
lob.
great. Yeah, it looks great.
It looks very even.
Mm-hmm.
It is ridiculous to me that they're letting her like beat up ex-boyfriend sit on this float.
He's got like lacerations on his face and like a shitty looking cast. All he's missing is like a cigarette hanging from his mouth.
Like, it took me a couple shots to realize he's actually on the float with her, and I was like, who allowed this? Because like, I just, having seen the pageant, and then we see this year's iteration of the pageant too, it's just like, I don't know, these people are pretty proper. I just don't think this would fly. But
Yeah.
okay, so speaking of, we go to the this year's beauty pageant. This woman that they're showing do her talent, she's singing a song, I think. This woman looks older than me.
Yeah. Oh my god, she does. Like, I thought at first she was one of like the announcers or something, and then she starts singing and doing a talent bit, and even like Sarah Michelle Gellar, I guess, Helen, like gives her this like, oh, you,
Yeah. I
like
mean,
she
she's
just
obviously not impressed with the song, yeah.
no, but I, she doesn't look like she's of age. But
No,
maybe,
not at all.
I mean, I don't know the rules of this pageant. I don't know if it's just like if there's an age minimum maximum. To be fair,
Hmm.
it's just like who wants to be this year's Fisherman Town queen. I
Yeah, I'm
guess.
pretty sure it was supposed to be like high school students.
Fair enough. Then
Yeah.
she is disqualified.
Hmm.
I think she can like
Um,
get an AARP card right now.
it's like when we talked about in Clueless when they go to that party and that one guy comes up to Ty at the party.
Yes.
And you're like, it's who's this random like 50-year-old man at the party?
We've got middle-aged women in high school competitions. We've got children directing scenes.
It's all over the place. So Barry is up in the balcony watching her just like he was the previous year, but this time it's to apparently protect her from the fisherman. It's a horrible job. Fisherman basically sneaks up behind him, and I do like this scene at the beginning where Helen sees it happening from the stage and starts screaming his name. But like Helen's reaction to seeing this all play out, it's, I don't know, the first time we get a sense of how terrifying I think this really is. Because I feel like Max's was so quick and we don't really see it happen. It happens kind of off screen. We don't see his reaction even seeing this guy or anything. But then we go into this choppy editing where we don't exactly see Barry get killed. It's sort of
No.
shots at his face and shots of the hook moving.
I do like the horror aspect where she's the only one that can see the fisherman approach Barry.
Mm-hmm.
Barry can't hear her yell to him because of the horrible song being sung.
Mm-hmm.
But then when she like goes to like run towards the balcony, like probably to go help Barry,
Right.
everyone jumps out of their seats and like is crowded around her and starts grabbing her. And I mean, the shots are kind of cool, and it gives me a sense of claustrophobia and urgency and
Mm-hmm.
helplessness because she's just trying to help but can't. But why the hell is everyone just grabbing this woman?
They're more unnerved by Helen having this like explosive reaction
Mm-hmm.
than they are to whatever she's saying that there's someone in danger. Because if nothing else, what if someone had been watching from up there and she saw him have like a heart attack or something? It's just, I can't believe that no
Right.
one's taking this seriously. This leads us to Helen being in the back of the cop car. He eventually stops because there's a person with their car broken down. Eventually, we see it's the fisherman,
Of
and
course.
the fisherman just kills the cop. I
As you do.
like you do, and apparently, in my opinion, for no other reason but to further terrorize Helen.
Yeah. I mean, in any of these sort of movies, I always feel like the cop is going to be expendable because
Mm.
if the cop is not, then the movie's over. Like if
And he's like a no-name character. Like I get that.
yeah, and he's like an old sheriff type character.
Hmm.
I think what's more remarkable is that Helen can escape the back of a police car by kicking out the back window.
Yeah. So I read with one of the interviews with Gillespie that that was going to be the scene from Scream 2. I don't know if you remember this, where Sydney and another girl they're stuck in the back of a cop car being driven by Ghostface, and they crash, I believe, and Ghostface is unconscious and they have to crawl out the driver's side window, crawl over Ghostface, but there's also that you don't know if he's really knocked out, if he's pretending, whatever, so obviously it ups the danger because they have to literally crawl over his body. They were going to use that scene for I Know What You Did Last Summer, but I think it was Gillespie. It might have been Kevin Williamson realized, no, sorry, it was Kevin Williamson realized that there was no way to make it work because the idea was that the killer is driving and also kind of reaching back and like I don't know, like slashing at the girl in the back. But they were like, there's no way to block this shot so that you're not seeing the fisherman's face.
Mm,
But in Scream, you didn't have that problem because he wears a mask.
right. Okay.
So, so originally that was what was going to happen. She was going to be like driven somewhere by the fishermen and have that whole tense scene of her escaping. But
Okay.
to your point about the cop being killed, I do think it ups the scare factor for me because it shows that this guy is more unhinged than simply seeking revenge for what happened to him, if we assume that it's, the guy they hit. But like you said, Helen escapes this situation by kicking out the window of the police car. We have that classic thing where she is running for her life and the killer is slowly walking.
Gotta do
um,
that.
Gotta do it. I read something with the actor that played the fisherman that he really did work on his walk because he knew it would be an important part of playing a killer. So
Method
props
actor.
to him. Yeah. Yeah. Eventually, she ends up at the family store. It's like a department store. Her sister lets her in at the last minute, obviously, does not give a shit that her younger sister's screaming and shouting to let her in. She, like, very slowly goes to retrieve the keys and all that. But as soon as Helen gets in the store, her sister makes a comment that another entrance is still unlocked. So I feel
Yeah.
like we know at that point.
Oh yeah.
I still felt so bad for her sister. I did not remember her sister getting killed. This is when I noticed in this scene, because they show the name of the shop, that her last name is Shivers. And I thought Helen Shivers was a pretty solid horror movie name.
Better than Julie James.
Yes. Julie James sounds like a gunslinger, if
Yeah,
anything.
I like that. Yeah,
Hmm.
but I do like Helen Shivers. It's pretty good.
Okay, first of all, did not realize that Helen's sister is named Elsa. I will only think of Frozen now, so didn't realize there was an Elsa in my pop culture consumption before Frozen.
Fair enough.
But this scene where Elsa has her throat slashed, she's standing against the glass door and her throat is cut from behind. It originally did not have any blood in it. Again, because Gillespie was trying to make this not gory, but the producer, Feg, who we've talked about
Yeah.
briefly in the beginning, he worried that the scene would be medically impossible. So then they had to like put the blood splatter in post.
Oh, thought it looked kind of weird.
I also thought it looked kind of weird. So,
Well, so here's the thing. He's right, but he's wrong. Right.
mhm,
So like, yes, if someone got their throat cut, there would definitely be some blood, obviously.
mhm,
But you didn't have to show it. You can show him coming up behind her, cut to Helen's reaction, and then
mhm.
like maybe like the body falling or something. I don't know. Like there's a way to get around it. They did it, back in the 50s and 60s when you couldn't show stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like you don't see a knife entering Janet Leigh's body, but she's murdered and it's scary.
that's a good point. Yeah. No, it's just that people back then didn't bleed. So,
They did. It was chocolate syrup though.
mhm. So yes, at the end of this scene, Helen ends up being murdered.
Oh, she gets killed in the alley. She escapes and she's running, and then she stops. She's almost home free, and there's like fireworks in the parade, and then she's like
Oh,
stops to turn
right.
around to see if he's still coming, and then turns back and bumps into him because somehow he got in front of her, and then he's
Hmm.
murdering her right in front of everybody, but not quite because it's loud, noisy, and he's
You
behind the
can't
tires.
hear. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember this now. Okay.
Wow. Almost forgot all about that.
Sorry.
Sorry, Helen. Moving on.
Yep. Yep. But I also feel like at this point in the movie, like a lot of things are happening. This is where we find out, or I'm sorry, where Julie realizes that they did not kill David Egan. And I'm still not super clear on how we came to this conclusion, but she goes to visit his sister again.
Hmm.
Okay. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I was gonna say thank you because I was confused too. Like,
Okay.
so the
Oh,
very,
no.
very beginning, like during like the creepy like shots and whatnot, you see this like normal looking guy. He's got some sort of jewelry in his hand, and he's sitting on a ledge. And the presumption here is he's gonna jump. He's upset about something. He's gonna jump. We find out that that is David Egan, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The sister mentions that a summer before he lost his girlfriend. I forget how.
She was in a car accident and David was driving. He
Okay.
survived. She died.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
So he remembers what he did last summer. Got it. So there's that. We're made to believe that he is thinking about suicide. When they go to the pier after running over somebody and they dump him into the water, as they walk off the pier, there's a shot of this same little jewelry thing that he was
Hmm.
holding. So
Hmm.
we're made to assume that this guy spent 12 hours up on the cliffside, decided maybe not to kill himself, crossed the street at the wrong time, gets hit by a car. That's how I felt
Right.
because they show these little trinkets or whatnot.
Right.
So then that's not what happened though, because the sister mentioned that David Egan did commit suicide. So then how did this
So,
other guy get involved?
okay, so this other guy who is the real killer is the girl's father that died in the car accident and David was driving. It was like David's
Okay.
fiance.
Okay. So the fisherman
So,
is the fiance's dad.
yes, he's Kevin Williamson's dad
I mean, he is. So why? So did he kill David Egan?
for causing his daughter's death. Yes.
But did he kill him?
Yes.
Okay. Did that be explained? Because I feel like I missed something. Like I feel like there was implications, and I was putting the pieces together. I'm like, just come out and say it, or I don't know. That scene in the house, the second time Julie's there by herself, I was like, I feel like this is the lines are being told to me out of order because the puzzle isn't fitting 100%. I thought this is what happened, what you just told me, but for some reason, when I watched, I was like, am I right or wrong? What's going on here? Did David Egan kill the fisherman?
I'm sorry. This movie that we've already said like is so kind of like simplistic and doesn't hold up compared to others. It broke your brain.
Because it didn't make sense. They have kids directing these important scenes.
Okay, so when Julie goes back to talk to David Egan's sister, Crazy Ann
Mm-hmm.
Heche, okay, she
Crazy.
says, I know he killed himself because I have a note. And when she brings out the note, it's actually one of those threats from the fisherman
Mm-hmm.
because it says, like, I can't remember what it says. I know what you did last summer. I can't remember what, but
Sure.
Julie realizes
Yeah.
that it's the same guy coming after David Egan. So basically, they had hit him on his way back from killing David Egan.
Yeah, because I remember the scene because she's like, this isn't a note, this is a threat.
Right. And
So
I think,
really, the foursome were actually heroes,
sure.
but then killed somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They killed a killer, I guess. But then, according to, our fisherman here, he killed a killer in his mind because David Egan was driving the car when his daughter died. So, are you good?
Yes,
Yeah.
Kevin Williams' dad is the murderer. Got it.
Okay. So, there's some weirdness in here where Julie, like, in her mind, finally realizes that Ray is the killer because his boat has the same name as someone who kept visiting David Egan's sister. I think, we were supposed to think that this is like proof that he said that Ray set this all up. I think Ray was also just struggling with his guilt like Julie was,
Mm-hmm.
and, kind of went to that house to see what his family was like, maybe pretended to be a friend and paid his respects. But I can understand, honestly, how you got confused at this point between like that bit about Ray and then this bit about finding out who the fisherman actually is, that it's not David Egan that they hit, all that. There's a lot of revelations, but then this revelation about Ray turns out to be wrong too.
There's all these like things appointed at Ray, but it very clearly not Ray.
Yeah.
That I don't know, but I was trying to make the connections that weren't there because the previous scene, directed by a Tyler, didn't make sense to me.
So our big like ending scene, Julie runs away from Ray thinking that he's the bad guy. She ends up like running into this random kindly fisherman who keeps calling her child, which I feel like all of this should have been red flags to her, but She was panicking, so whatever. He ushers her onto his boat. And I did like this little touch where she's seen like pictures of him with a little girl that you can assume is his daughter, but then it turns into like newspaper clippings of the accident. And am I wrong? Did he have clippings of them too?
And I already kind of knew he was going to be the killer because he's like, "Yo, go ahead, get on my boat." No, it doesn't seem right. You shouldn't be doing that. So he's clearly the killer. But I like the clippings and the pictures. I think again, better of showing than telling.
Well, I also know that if there's this older white man calling you child like that, based on all the Netflix cult documentaries I've seen, you don't trust that one.
No, probably not. No, no, no.
Right. So basically, she slowly realizes who this guy really is and, I don't know, decides to be scared of him now instead of Ray, or I don't know. It's just like she must be getting some emotional whiplash here because, like, she
Oh
thought
yeah,
Ray was a killer and now she's on the boat with the
the killer.
father of David Egan's fiance, who she's already figured out is the killer, but that was still scared of Ray. So, like, ugh. So I just wanted to point out one thing about this scene. He's chasing her all over the boat. Ray somehow gets on the boat, gets knocked off, gets back on, climbs up the net, gets
Mm-hmm.
back on. Okay. Jennifer Love Hewitt is wearing a low cut tank top because that's like all she wears in this movie, right? With this like little short sleeve sweater over it. And she ends up crawling into, I don't know what you call it, but this little compartment that looks like it's in the middle of the boat that's filled with ice. They have her take off her little sweater and use that to kind of open this hatch that she has
Mm-hmm.
to pull upward. She can't get a good grip on the handle, so she uses her sweater, wraps that around the handle, and pulls up. They had to include that and this entire idea of her crawling around in this room of ice because they shot this scene out of order, and at some point they realized at the end of the scene she didn't have her sweater on anymore.
Yes.
And it's not uncommon, right, to shoot things out of order, but they somehow forgot to keep her top consistent. But I have a quote from our friend Gillespie here. People thought we did this so you could see more of her breasts, but actually it was because we had screwed up the continuity and needed it to match. So when we were halfway through building the set, we built this inner chamber that doesn't exist on a boat. She goes in there and she can't get the door up and she uses her jumper as leverage. And then he
Hmm.
said, I watched Passengers recently, and there's a moment in there where the exact same thing happens. She takes off her top in order to use it to pull up some hot door. I thought, they've stolen that whole thing.
This guy gives himself a lot of fucking credit. First of all, sir, if you're saying you didn't do it to show more of her breasts, I don't believe you because you can just, oh, how did she lose her sweater? We don't know. Just reshoot that one scene at the end where she doesn't have a sweater on. You don't have to do this whole like 15 minutes of her playing in ice, which I feel like she also finds a body in there, so they just randomly threw that in too. I
Yeah,
don't believe this.
doesn't she find Barry and Helen in there? Am I
Barry,
wrong?
I think Barry for sure. But yeah,
Okay.
she's like digging around this ice and to like she's trying to block the door so it's
Yeah,
heavy.
she's trying to pile ice against
Yeah,
it and stuff, and ends up uncovering two bodies that.
but I feel like there's no way that like okay, we need a reason for her not to have a top because it's not matching continuity. That they're just going to make up this whole scene that makes sense. And now you're finding the bodies, and now we also know why this guy's not getting caught because he's hiding the bodies on his boat. When you could just reshoot the scene with the sweater on, or I don't know. It's a lot of in continuity stuff in horror movies. Just go with it. Yeah, I don't believe this quote at all.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say maybe she was already going to be in this room with the ice, but then they made her open the door that way because then she didn't have her sweater on. I could see that.
Nah.
I don't know. All right. Well, in the end, I, I don't know. He gets drawn upward, loses his hand, and then eventually gets flung out to sea. We're left with just his severed hand holding a hook. But, no one made sure he was really dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, I
So
don't know.
then a year later,
Mm-hmm.
Julie, guilt-free, you can tell by her good hair,
Yeah, she does have much better looking hair now.
is all happy-go-lucky. She's talking to Ray on the phone. They must have got back together. I don't know.
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
Yeah. Shower scene where like the whole shower gets steamed up while she's on the phone, and then bum
Was
bum
that
bum. I still know. And then there's the introduction to the next movie next year.
well, the killer jumps out at her from the other side of the shower door.
Yeah, that was dumb. I think. Wait, I thought he went through the mirror. Like, I thought it was like
Maybe through
glass
the
or
mirror.
something. It
That's
doesn't
why I thought it
matter.
was a shower door. Because, like, how is he behind a mirror?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. But like, I heard what? Well, so then it's weird because that's like the last jump scare. I think that's the only thing it's there for. It's definitely not there for plot because he didn't kill her because she's there in the next movie.
Well, that's what I wrote a note saying, are we supposed to just assume this was a dream or pretend it was a dream because, like, she's in the sequel?
Right.
So the original ending was her getting an email that says, I still know. The director apparently hated it. He thought it was boring. He said he hated that he had to, like, shoot it even. The studio eventually agreed because when they did test screenings, they felt it was anticlimactic.
Yeah, the email seems a little weird. Also,
Mm-hmm.
like typically in these kind of movies, the killer has an MO, and
Mm-hmm.
like all of a sudden switching to email doesn't seem appropriate, especially for like this like older fisherman guy.
I mean, I agree. I also kind of thought it was out of character for him to jump through the glass at her too,
Yeah,
personally.
that's. I feel like
Because, like you
I
said too, he
legitimately,
was older.
yeah, I legitimately feel like that part of the movie is not the actual end. I think the note in the mirror, that's the end, and that was just the last scare while you're in the theater still to get you
Mm,
kind of psyched up for the next year's movie. I
maybe.
It just doesn't make sense otherwise. It still doesn't make sense to do it if it's not part of the movie, but like I feel like the movie ended and then because as he jumps through the whatever because he's wearing all black, it's kind of like the cut into black and then the credits roll.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yep.
I do know I watched this with my wife because she's never watched this before. She's also a big
Oh,
fan of the Scream franchise.
okay.
And I'm sitting there and I'm taking my notes and like letting the dog out or whatever. And it ended. I go, yep, well, it wasn't Scream. And she says, no, it wasn't.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of slasher movies aren't meant to be like great feats in cinema, I suppose. That's not to say
sure.
you
Yeah.
can't enjoy it for what it is.
Right. Before we get into its reception and its legacy, do you want to talk about whether it held up for you? Since we're kind of on that.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, actually. Jury is out. It is one of the few movies that we've watched for this pod that I don't really have a lot of memory for that I can like harper back and like have some nostalgia feelings. Anytime we talk about it, like I can't help but talk about Scream, and that's probably for any of these movies in the genre of that time. And I apologize to anyone else in those other movies.
Mhm.
That being said, I feel like I rewatched this for the first time, like this was my first viewing because I think I've only seen it once, and it clearly didn't have a lasting impact. Besides some of the scenes we talked about that are
Mhm.
more famous or maybe infamous,
Mhm.
it wasn't horrible. I enjoyed kind of like that teen slasher kind of tension. I just do feel like they could have done a better job if that's the way they wanted to go and be less gory and knowing
Mhm.
the book was a little bit more mysterious and not to like joking aside and not to like harper on a point I was making before to make myself sound
Mhm.
smart or anything. Like I now talking about it with you, I didn't think it the other night. I really think they could have leaned more on Barry. I think that would have
Mhm.
been way better than Ray. I think the only thing Ray had going for him was that he worked on a boat and was never in the movie.
It's funny because you have, your ideas of what it could have done to maybe be a little more interesting. I'm with you that this was probably the movie I remembered the lead. Well, I totally forgot that I had seen Tiny Toons before, so
Mm.
whatever. But still, I remembered very little of this, so a lot of it was surprising to me, mostly that it just kind of fell flat for me.
Hmm.
Like I'm not saying I wouldn't rewatch it maybe sometime, but it wouldn't necessarily be my first choice as something that I would be excited to revisit. And I also feel like after doing all this research, reading all these interviews with our filmmakers here, it's like they felt like they were making this, story about ethics or this philosophical question of like, what would you do if you were in this position? And personally, because I hate saying it's the lack of gore, but I feel like that's part of it almost that this guy, his kills at first are random. Well, I guess Max is the only really random one, but like there's a lack of this feeling of danger because he doesn't even kill Barry the first time he encounters him. I would have almost been more interested in a story where, when they all come back together after that year and they're like, oh my gosh, we're getting this note and what do we do? I think I would have been more interested for that to continue. Like when they're, examining how their relationships all fell apart because of this, and now they have to come back together to solve this. I think that's when it held my interest the most, honestly.
Yeah, I can see that. It's probably what the book's like. Because if there's
Mm-hmm.
less killing or no killing and more of
Mm-hmm.
like these threatening notes, I can see that being a little bit more, have more
Mm-hmm.
tension, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it, to me, it felt like when you hear some of these quotes from the writer and the director, it's almost like that's what they felt they were making.
Yeah.
That it was this relatable, what would you do in this situation when you had stuff to lose? And I do think that's a something interesting to examine. I just feel like the slasher elements didn't exactly hold up for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun, but it's, I don't know. I don't want to say it needs to be gory because I don't want to contradict what I said earlier. But if you're gonna do it one way or not at all. Like
Yeah.
hint at it, or I'm not saying go full on crazy either, but a little bit more would have helped because you're showing the violence. Just give me a little bit more, or don't show it at all and hint at it and
Hmm.
allude to it.
I think maybe it's not even so much the gore, it's more like I said, I was more scared of David Egan's sister. I thought she was creepier
Yeah,
than the fisherman because, the first time he encounters one of the main four, again, he doesn't kill him. He just sort of takes his coat and scares him. I don't know.
right.
And
Yeah,
then they even said they had to go back and add Max being killed because the guy didn't seem threatening enough. But then to me, it just seemed so random. And it, more than anything else, I was confused about Max being killed. Like, that didn't feel threatening to me because what did Max have to do with anything?
right,
Like, I don't know. Like, the other people, like the cop being killed, Elsa being killed, they were in the same place, and so I that makes more sense to me. I get it, like they were sort of in his way or whatever, but I don't know, I don't know. This, like I said, this is probably one that I would not be in a rush to revisit necessarily.
question.
Mm-hmm.
So the fisherman,
Mm-hmm.
we established that he killed David Egan
Mm-hmm.
because of the car accident.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, David did not mean to do it and was devastated. And
Yes.
we, like I said, we assume he's going to commit suicide. If the fisherman killed David, then bad timing, walks across the street, gets hit by these kids who dump him in the water, presumed dead.
Uh-huh.
A year later, he torments them,
Mm-hmm.
saying, I know what you did. Technically, they didn't do anything because he didn't die. So there's no murder charge there.
I
Maybe
mean,
attempted
they attempted murder. Yeah, they threw him in the
Sure,
lake still,
sure. The point I'm
or
getting
in the
at,
sea, whatever.
yeah, the bay, whatever, it doesn't matter. The point I'm getting at, this man literally just walked away from murdering somebody else. You
Yeah,
think that you wouldn't torment these other people that didn't know you did that because, I don't know, you murdered somebody and
like just
they,
lay low.
yeah, just like, you know what? They got me good. I got a couple bruises. I'm all banged up, but I'm not
Karma,
in jail. Like I don't,
maybe.
like the
Yeah.
motive is like, once you find out the guy that's murdering them isn't the victim, like,
It,
I mean, he is, but
mhm.
not like the David Egan guy, and that he murdered it. I was like, well, but why? Why are you like trying to oust yourself almost?
Yeah.
Like, what's it gonna do? I know what you did. You almost killed me. I'm gonna get you, but please don't tell anybody that you know I killed somebody else. I don't know.
Jeez.
Overthinking, I guess.
It's okay. No, but it does hit different that they didn't just kill some innocent person. Like we can assume now he was on his way back from murdering
Yeah,
someone who already felt very bad about the accident that he caused.
yeah.
So,
A nice murder
um,
stroll.
nice murder stroll. But okay, so getting into a little bit of the film's reception to wrap this up. So, Columbia marketed I Know What You Did Last Summer as being from the creator of Scream. They meant Kevin Williamson, who wrote both scripts. Miramax, who actually produced Scream, sued Columbia because they felt like this advertising was leading people to believe that Wes Craven, the director of Scream, was involved. Kevin Williamson also felt this was misleading and had asked them to stop using this on the advertising when he first saw it. But a week after the film's release, a federal judge told Columbia that they had to remove this from their advertising. Miramax won their suit against Columbia in March of 98, so the next year, and they promised to vigorously pursue damage claims against Columbia Pictures. Miramax was also run by the Weinsteins, so I can't help but feel like they were just doing their big tough guy thing. I don't think anything more actually came of this. They were trying to, I don't know, say it damaged Miramax or Scream or something, which, like, I don't think it did, but that's okay.
Clearly, it did not.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of agree that this was a misleading line to put on there, but I think everyone's okay.
Yeah, they were trying to
Um,
ride those coattails.
yeah, yeah. If nothing else, it would have been a boost for I Know What You Did Last Summer. I don't know what it would have taken away from the others, but
I mean, it's all about wording too. If they would have said
mhm.
from the writer or the co-writer of, like, because that would be
Yeah,
truth, right? I don't know if
yeah.
they can go after him still for, like, I don't know, you're going trying to use my popularity, but like, if you just say the right word at the right time, you can change
Hmm.
everything. Because creator does sound like they could be the director, Wes Craven. It sounds like it could be the producer, the studio.
I assume that's what they were going for. It could be
Yeah,
anything. So
right.
they weren't technically lying, but also if some people came into it thinking it was Wes Craven, then that's fine with them too. That being said, though, big at the box office despite mixed reviews, but I think we all can assume this didn't do well critically. Here, I'll read you a quote from Jim Gillespie, our director. It was meant to kind of be a standalone revisit of those classic 80s horror films. It worked. The movie was number one 3 weeks in a row. It just clicked with the audience. The title clicked and everything just seemed to work. Third week was Halloween weekend and it was number one in its third week. I couldn't believe it stuck there for 3 weeks. So, box office success, like we had mentioned, this whole trend of like teen horror movies coming out, not, I almost feel like not necessarily even teen slasher movies, but horror movies.
Sure, yeah.
Um, it started as slasher, you could argue, with Scream in this,
Scream in this one, yeah.
but I mean, they seemed very proud of themselves, so it's fine.
I mean, 3 weeks, number one in
I
October,
mean,
which is
that's not
competitive.
nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. I mean, tip my hat.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the quotes are a little too much tipping their own hats. But whatever, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep. Would you like to get into the sequels a little bit?
Sure.
Okay.
Some more of the legacy. As we mentioned, it was a novel. I Know What You Did Last Summer, 1973. Report back if I ever get to audiobook it or read it.
Yeah.
This film came out in 97, and I'm assuming because of its 3 weeks at the box office and its bigger success than maybe they thought it would be. I don't know, but they greenlit and the sequel came out. I still Know What You Did Last Summer
Mm-hmm.
in 1998. So it's a direct sequel a year later.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty impressive. I'm
Yeah.
assuming because of the cast, you've got J Love, Prince Jr., Muse Watson returns. He is the fisherman. I'm assuming the bit we talked about at the end in the shower, I haven't seen the sequel in a long time. I think I've seen it
Yeah.
once, and it probably fell flat for me. And I was like, well, that's the thing. I think I probably
Hmm.
wouldn't have seen it if it wasn't for the cast, honestly. The two returning characters.
Yeah. Well, and also, at least for me, it was just this is what we watched at that age. Like, new teen
Yeah.
movie. Like, it was very much aimed at us,
True, true. Also had Jack Black in it.
which I
That's kind of
completely
cool.
forgot about.
Totally
Yeah.
forgot about that. Yeah.
Um, it's funny to think about because I just saw the Minecraft movie with my son and Jack Black's in that. Like, what a career, man.
What a career.
The director, Jim Gillespie, did not return for the sequel. He wasn't thrilled about doing it, but I think he felt like he should do the next one because I'm sure he thought the first one was like his baby and whatnot.
Right.
And he also, I think I forgot to mention, Jennifer Love Hewitt said that he was the best director she's ever worked with, like the one she enjoyed working with the most. Like she thought he was very kind and willing to work with the actors. And I don't know. But her contract was that she had to do any sequel. He ended up bowing out because they had a treatment that was just a page and a half that they were like, okay, this is what the sequel is going to be about generally, so sign on. He didn't want to sign on not having a script yet because he wasn't convinced it would be a good script, just having this little idea of what the story would be. So he ended up bowing out because he didn't like the story. And apparently Jennifer Love Hewitt was very disappointed it wasn't him returning. And part of like the only thing supposedly that was making her feel better about going back to do a sequel was that she was going to work with him again. And then she wasn't.
That sucks.
Yeah. And he said he truly felt bad about backing out too because of her and Freddie Prinze Jr. returning, and then he wasn't. But I mentioned before that I think about the sequel, or I remember more of the sequel, I think, than the original. I remember it being such a big deal at the time because Brandy was in it. Like, Brandy was so big at the time. And I mean, I know she's acted before she was in that Cinderella movie, but maybe she hadn't acted in a while. I'm not sure. But I remember all my friends being like, oh, Brandy's going to be the next one. Also, the premise of this one, the killer or whatever, lures them down to Brazil because they've won a radio contest where they like win a trip to Brazil. But the question they have to answer for the radio contest is, what is the capital of Brazil? And they say Rio de Janeiro, and they win. And the actual capital of Brazil is Brasilia. And this is something that I want to say it's the killer, but I don't feel like it's the fisherman that tells them this. Is another character. But like when the evil plot is being exposed, they're like, by the way, Brasilia is the capital of Brazil. So like they didn't even legitimately win this contest. It was all a ruse to lure them down here. That's the only reason why I like literally could tell you the capital of Brazil at any given time.
I mean, if the killer's gonna buy 4 plane tickets to Brazil,
Right?
what the? Yeah. I also want to apologize. I don't remember these sequels like I do with Jurassic Park, so I can't give you a proper breakdown.
I didn't even realize there were more. So it's
Yes.
okay. You
Uh,
list them off.
yeah. I also want to point out though, like I feel like the title, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. I think the still should be either gone or maybe another word should be added because like now it's like several summers ago. It's I know what you did the summer before last.
Okay, that's a
Okay, right?
mouthful. That's a bit of a
It's a mouthful,
mouthful.
yeah, but it's also like more accurate. Which
Okay,
leads
because
us
that's
to I'll always know what you did last summer, whatever summer that was, which is a direct to video standalone sequel that came in 2006. I didn't look this one up that much and I didn't watch it. My lack of caring for this franchise kind of stopped after the J. Love Hewitt sequel.
yeah.
But there is a fisherman character, all new characters besides a murderer who's I don't think the same murderer, same guy. So just same premise, different situation, different people. But there you go. It was also listed as a supernatural slasher, and it appeared that the fisherman in this film not only committed murders 8 years prior, but also cannot die. So this makes me think again of like Jason or Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Don't know if it's the same actor though, but I guess it is the same killer. I don't know. I don't know. Different everything besides the killer, and he didn't die twice,
That's weird.
maybe three times.
It's weird to randomly make him supernatural.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they're really trying to, instead of like where they had success in the end of the 90s of these teen horror flicks and a more plot driven, for the most part, where these characters are developed and why they're seeking revenge. Now it's like, you know what worked? Jason Voorhees worked. Let's do that. Apparently, there was also an I Know What You Did Last Summer TV series. It was produced by Amazon Prime for Amazon Studios and Sony Picture Television. It was a modern take on the novel, and it didn't do very well. Canceled through one season, and I'm surprised because Neil H. Moritz and James Wan were executive producers. James Wan does a lot of great horror movies. Did Saw. He's in charge of the Conjuring universe, whatever you want to call that. And then Neil
Okay.
was the producer of the original movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer. So it's weird that these guys are behind it in some fashion, and it just didn't do very well.
Hmm. And you think this was more of a new adaptation of the book? Not
That's what
like,
I read. It said
okay.
a modern take.
I
I don't
never
know.
even knew this was a show.
Neither did I. And now it brings us to this July 2025. I Know What You Did Last Summer, which they're considering a legacy sequel. Sometimes people call it a requel. Originally, we had plans for this, apparently, in September 2014. Sony Pictures revealed plans to remake the first film with Mike Flanagan and Jeff Howard writing the script. I myself was a big Mike Flanagan fan, kind of curious what that would have looked like. It was high priority, set for 2016 release. Flanagan confirmed that the new iteration of the franchise would be a reboot and not include elements of the novel nor the 97 feature film. And obviously it was canceled. So then we jump from there to February 2023. After years remaining in developmental hell, a legacy sequel was announced, and it would have Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. in negotiations to come back in their roles. They both confirmed, and they're part of the cast of September and December 24, respectively. And here we are, ready for the new release.
I'm so curious what made them so like they seem so determined to remake this in 2014 because there's a note here that they had an estimated budget of 15 to 20 million and like they were already talking about it publicly,
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder what made them think like this was the hot IP to redo or bring back. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes sequels exist just in general to keep the IP under your domain.
Hmm.
So Columbia Pictures or whatever.
Oh, that's true.
I'm just saying, like, just in, like an example.
No,
Like,
I just noticed though. It wasn't
yeah.
even the
Well,
same.
because they also had their hands in the Amazon series.
Oh, okay.
I just like the idea. It kind of became a thing, this legacy, sequel, requels, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
But with the lack of success of always, I know this show, I think it might be smart to just go from presumably either the first or second movie. I don't know if they're going to include the 98 sequel or not, but to
Mm.
just kind of jump forward and have the, as we know it, the only remaining victims or not victims of the first movie. I'm kind of
Hmm.
curious to see how they do that.
Yeah, like I'm curious about this new version coming out. Like I would still watch it just to
Mm-hmm.
compare. I'm not gonna say I have like really high expectations,
No. And
but
again, the title is getting confusing because I know what you did 20 summers ago. Mouthful.
oh man. All right. Well, we would love to hear your thoughts on I Know What You Did Last Summer, as well as your own favorite summer movies. You can find us on Instagram at Back Through the Lens Pod and on Facebook at Back Through the Lens. You can also email us at backthroughthelenspodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and review. It's the best way to support our show.
If you enjoyed our show today, please give us a like and follow for updates on new and future episodes. Our show is produced by our host, Rachel Campbell, and myself, Joe Siomick, with additional help and support from Peter Telep of LPV Productions. Peter, Rachel, and I are also the executive producers. Our awesome logo is brought to you by Tom Faraci, and our wonderful theme song is by Matt Tarek. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more trips into our movie watching past on Back Through the Lens.
we can't get through the intro, and you're like, oh, it's going to be a great episode.
I can tell. There's magic in the air. I don't know. Don't listen to me. No, I'm sorry. I do a podcast. Please, everyone listen to me.